Welcome to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. We feature the news, information, and entertainment our commercial drivers want and need. Speaking of entertainment, music tops the list of what our listeners want, especially when they're international sensations. Keyboard player, vocalist, and composer Bob Malone has been shaking up the music scene for decades. He's amassed a loyal international fan base over 25 years of relentless touring and 9 critically acclaimed album releases with his edgy vocals and dynamic keyboard licks. He's played keyboard for John Fogerty since 2011. His music features dynamic and challenging keyboard techniques and rhythms that cover all the genres. Bob has recorded with music luminaries like Ringo Starr and Avril Lavigne, and his recording of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch was the theme in the 2018 Illumination Universal movie trailers for the movie The Grinch. Bob is open for Boz Scaggs, the Neville Brothers, Reverend Al Green, Bo Deans, Dr. John, and many others. As a member of John Fogerty's band, he's played with Bruce Springsteen, Bob Seger, Jackson Browne, Billy Gibbons, and Jimmy Buffett. Bob Malone is nothing short of amazing. His compositions and arrangements weave together nuances from all musical genres. Bob is accomplished in rock, melodic pop, blues, New Orleans R&B, and even classical. He does them all with ease and mastery. This virtuoso delivers high-energy piano with an edgy voice all his own. He studied at the revered Berklee College of Music before he launched his career. His mastery of the keyboard makes you want to get up and dance with songs like this. That dynamic song is called Prelude and Blues off of Bob Malone's new album, Good People. I have the pleasure of having Bob with me today. Bob, this is quite the honor having you on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
You know, you're a serious virtuoso and you play a wicked piano and keyboard. You've been called the keyboard wizard by the New Yorker, and I love your music.
Oh, well, thank you.
You've had quite the history playing all over the world with John Fogerty and other great musicians. How about you tell us a little bit about yourself and your climb to the top? It's super interesting.
Oh, well, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I started taking piano lessons when I was 9. And by 10, I decided I wanted to be a concert pianist. And then at 14, I was corrupted by rock and roll. At 15, I started playing in bars, and I went to Berklee College of Music. And during that time, I started playing for a living, and I moved to LA in the 90s. That was one whole sentence of incomprehensible words because it's a little early for me.
Oh, you sound great. Berklee.
It was so yeah, I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, and then for that point on, I was working as a musician. And I moved to LA in the 90s, and I started touring, doing my own songs and recording. And 11 years ago, I got this just out of the blue call to play with John Fogerty. And then so I've been doing both of those things, touring solo and playing with him for the last 11 years. And yeah, I've done sessions with Ringo Starr. And
oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was another random. I was backstage at this show, and like, after sound check, after a really long, bad sound check. And this guy's like, it was an engineer I knew, actually. He'd worked on my last record. He's like, hey, you want to do a gig with Ringo? Be really quick and easy. and I go, oh, what's it pay? No, I didn't say that at all. So anyway, yeah, went over to Ringo's house and cut the tracks.
Oh, how cool is that? Not many people can say they've been to Ringo's house either.
No. I remember the night before the session, my wife and I were like, I had the address, and you can look up like a house on Google and see what it looks like. So it shows like the front gate, a garbage can. And she's like, that's Ringo's garbage can. One of my best friends is this huge Beatles freak like I am, and he's like, you got to get a picture of something like really normal and mundane at Ringo's house, to prove that he's human. So anyway, I got some nice pictures of the bathroom. Anyway, that was my encounter. So yeah, done lots of stuff. I've traveled all around the world many times, and I've seen a lot of places I never thought I'd see.
I bet. Getting back to that session with Ringo, I mean, being a rock and roll performer, that had to have been like playing music with God, because the Beatles are iconic. What was it like? What was it like to work with Ringo?
It was great. He was very nice. I think he knows that, like, even famous musicians are kind of in awe, of a Beatle. So he knows to put people, make people comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he was just a cool guy. And he showed me his drums. I was overdubbing, like the track was mostly done, and I was putting my piano part on. So he hung out there, and he was watching me do the first take, and I played some cool kind of piano lick, and he nodded in approval. And then I immediately messed up the next part because I was like, oh, he likes it. And then I screwed it up because I started overthinking. It was a great day. And then I went home and called all my friends and had a barbecue.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Guess who I played with today?
I know. There was nothing else. Yeah, there's nothing else to top that. So I wasn't going to do anything else that day.
Sure. Oh, how cool is that? And you've played with so many greats, but you had a great background. And I find it interesting that at such a young age, you decided that you were going to be a professional piano player or pianist. And then
Yeah.
I love how you say you got corrupted, went into rock and roll. How do you make the transition? I personally play piano and I was taught classically also. How do you make that transition, for those who don't know, from classical to rock and roll?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it involves going beyond just reading music off a page. And I was a big jazz fan before that too. Still am, but but at that point in my life, I hadn't really improvised, and I knew I was going to have to do all the different kinds of music I wanted to do. So you just start listening to recordings and figuring out what people are doing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, more than anything else, that's how you learn. You just listen and you figure it out. Then it eventually turns into you being able to do that same thing. You kind of it's like it's a vocabulary, right? So every kind of music has a vocabulary. Every kind of music is like a variation of a language or a dialect, within styles,
Mm-hmm.
and you learn the new languages basically. They're all the same. It's all music. Like I have seen people have a lot of trouble going from like reading classical music to doing stuff that's more based on feel and
Yeah.
improvisation and the moment and all that sort of thing. And it's hard to teach that. I mean, you can teach to a certain extent. I have a student actually who a piano student who I kind of got her through that exact thing. She came in and she could read like classical music, but she could not improvise anything. Like she played block chords all in the same position.
Yep.
And I taught her the styles. She'd do something and then I'd show her how she could make it better and and through all that, she started to see all the patterns and was able to, learn how to actually just play without looking at a fully written out thing.
Mm-hmm.
Even coaching her through this and watching it all unfold, I'm still not exactly sure how it happens. But a lot of it's just listening.
It really is. Well, for those who aren't familiar with this, if you're classically trained, you're taught to play the notes as written. And I remember as a child doing a little improv, and my teacher was not appreciative of that.
No, no, they don't like that in
Uh-uh.
that world. And the thing is, I'm still a huge classical music fan, and and I've read tons and tons of books about the famous composers and all that stuff. And back in those days, before the 20th century, you know, when Bach or Beethoven or Mozart or whatever, that covers like almost 250 years right there. But
Yep.
all of those people improvised. Like it was a big deal to be able to be a great improviser. Beethoven was known as a great improviser. Like he'd be invited over and there'd be two piano players and they'd both try to outdo each other like a cutting contest in jazz, and that was all part of the tradition, like these pieces where there's a cadenza, which is this thing where you just play a solo bit in the middle of an orchestral piece. Those are all written out now, but they used to be improvised. That's where somebody would just cut loose and do whatever. So that
Mm-hmm.
whole tradition got lost, but then it happened again later on in jazz and in rock. And, anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff about classical music that maybe nobody wanted to hear, but there it
Oh, no,
was.
no, I think it's fascinating. And there may be some classically trained people or teachers that are just cringing, but frankly, improvisation is what brings out more music and the soul of
Yeah,
human beings.
it's a
Yeah,
whole art form in itself,
it really is. Absolutely. Now, did you growing up hate scales and the metronome as much as I did?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that. I
Uh-huh.
liked, I didn't, I played all the time, but I didn't practice all that much. Like you couldn't tear me away, but I was never working on what I was supposed to be working on.
Okay, so I wasn't the only one who did that.
No, I'm sure it's pretty common.
My my parents thought I was playing what I was supposed to be, but
Yeah, I mean, as long as you were playing, they were like, okay, cool.
uh-huh. Right.
She's playing. But
But you
I decided really early on that I was going to play. And I went through the whole gamut of the worst possible places you could ever play to gigantic arenas. And well, we just played Allegiant Arena. I think that's what it's called. Stadium this weekend with John Fogerty. We did the halftime show for the Raiders game for
very
like
cool.
however many vast amounts of people there were there.
Sure.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I'm playing that and I'm like, geez, the last time I played a football game, I had a tuba on.
Oh, so you played tuba too?
Played tuba in a marching band in high school, yeah.
Oh my, that's quite
Played
the
tuba,
deviation
played
from a keyboard.
yeah, well, they had no tuba play. I wanted to be in the band and they had no tuba players. And I said, well, I'll do it. And I took one home over the weekend and figured out how to play it.
Wow.
Not at a really advanced level, but it was music. I figured it out. I had played a little bit of trumpet before that, so I knew all the fingerings, although they were in the wrong key because it's a B flat horn. But anyway, I figured it out. And I showed up Monday in the field with my sousaphone, and did my thing.
That's
So
amazing. So you know how to adapt, which would you say that that's a characteristic that's really essential to
yeah,
climb the ladder in music?
adaptability is important. It's important for being a pro. There's being a pro musician where you have to be very adaptable and whatever the moment presents, you have to be completely 100% able to execute the task like an expert. And then there's being an artist, which is different, which is more about being really your whole own self and being unique, and maybe you're not as flexible in that you have a thing and that's what you do. So I've always had a foot in both camps.
Well, you certainly have been flexible. You've opened for Boz Scaggs and the Neville Brothers and Marsha Ball, and you've obviously you work with John Fogerty. You played with Bruce Springsteen, Bob Seger, Jackson Brown, Jimmy Buffett. You name it. I mean, all of those are different styles.
Yeah, it's all different styles. But I don't even think in terms of styles anymore. Like I now speak all the languages, so
Okay.
I just play music. Like the song will tell you what it wants. Like as a songwriter, if I have a good song, I know it's a good song because it's not built around anything I play. It's own thing, and I play according to what the song is. And that's kind of how it is with anyone you're playing with. Like you know, you play what the song requires, what that moment requires, and that's the instinct that comes into play about with what you're going to play and what you're going to do.
You definitely demonstrate instinct with this particular cut off your new album, Good People. This song is called Tangled Up in Blue. What a great arrangement.
smell, but I never did like it all that much. And one day the axe just fell. So I drifted down to New Orleans, where I was lucky to be employed, working for a while on a fishing boat right outside of Denver. But on mine I was alone, the past was close behind. I've seen a lot of women, but you never escaped my mind. And I just grew tangled up in love. Lord. She was working in a topless place. I stopped in for a beer. I kept looking at the side of her face in the spotlight so clear. Later on, as the crowd went out, I was just about to do the same. She was in there in the back of my chair. I said, honey, don't I know your name? I muttered something underneath my breath, stuttered the lines of my face. I must have been a little uneasy, but you bit down to tie the laces of my shoes. Tangled up in blood. She did a burner on the stove and she offered me a pipe. I thought she'd never say hello. She said, you know, you look like a silent type. She opened up a book of poems, handed it to me, written by an Italian poet from the 13th century. And every one of the words rang true, and they clout like burning coal, pouring off of every page like it was written in my soul. From me to you, tangled up in love. I lived with them on a Montague Street in the basement downstairs. There was music in the cafes at night, a revolution in the air. He started in the deed of his slaves, something inside of him died. She had to sell everything she owned, it just froze up inside. And when finally the bottom fell out, you know, I became withdrawn. The only thing I knew how to do was to keep on keeping on like a bird that flew. Tangled up in love. So now I'm going back again. I got to get to her somehow. All of the people that we used to know, they're an illusion to me now. Some are mathematicians, some are carpenters' wives. I don't know how it all got started. I don't know what to do with their lives. For me, I'm still on the road, heading for another joint. We always did feel the same, we just saw it from a different point of view. Tangled up in blue. I'm tangled up in blue. Tangled up in blue. Tangled up in blue. Tangled up in blue.
Your technique is just fabulous. And like you were saying before, you have to be an active listener to make the music work and anticipate.
That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You see people show up at like a jam or whatever, you know, and they're going to play. And the number one thing that amateur musicians do that separates them from people who really do it is they don't listen. You know, they just get up there and they start ripping or whatever, and they're totally not responding to what else is going on around them. And that's really what playing music is. It's responding to what's going on around you.
Yep.
You know, with other players. Like you have a set arrangement or whatever sometimes, and you play a song a certain way every night and all that sort of thing. So it's all maybe like a lot of times it's exactly the same performance every night, but it's a little different each time, and you still have to be playing with the others and
Sure.
listening, or it doesn't sound good. And people don't really know, audience members that, mostly don't know anything about music or why any of that happens. And that's not their job.
Hmm.
It's our job to do it right so that they have a great experience hearing it.
Sure.
People go to a show and they don't ever walk away remembering that made a mistake or missed a chord or forgot a lyric or whatever. They remember like what it made them feel like.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's very true.
So if you're having fun and you're all, playing together and you're having a great time, people respond to that. They know.
And your energy is incredible. No matter what you're playing, rock, blues, R&B, you've got high energy. And it's been described that you have a voice all your own, and you really do. And you've got a number of albums out, including a new one.
Yeah, Good People we put out, well, a year ago now, but uh yeah, that thing did well. Those songs were all written in 2018, 2019, and early 2020, March 2020, the day they shut everything down. I was in the studio uh recording the last tune for that album, and I finished my take, and that was it. We went home, and I didn't see any of those people for a year and a half. So I didn't put it out so it was done in 2020. Basically, I was going to
Mhm.
put it. I wasn't. The plan was to put it out that year, but I didn't put it out because it was the whole thing. Pandemic was going on, and I didn't really want to just throw it out into the void. So we sat on it for a year, and I put it out in 2021. And yeah, I'm just really happy with it.
So, what did you do during the pandemic? A lot of musicians found that it was an inspiration, and some just, I think it kind of knocked them off their square a little bit.
It kind of knocked me off my square. I was not sitting home cranking out new songs.
Mhm.
I basically every Tuesday I did an online show, and fans would like pay to watch it, on stage it, and that was my lifeline. Basically, I knew I had once a week I had to play and sing for people, or they weren't actually in the room, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
I had to put pants on, had a purpose in life. Had to keep coming up with new songs for it. So I had to go really deep into my catalog of tunes of my own that I hadn't played in years. And then uh, you know, I'd work up a couple of cover tunes every week, and had a lot of the same people, different people watching each week, but there was a core of real loyal fans who listened, watched it every week. And so I had to keep changing it up, make sure that I wasn't just giving them the same songs every week.
Sure.
So that was the thing that I did. That I still do them on occasion. I just did one for Halloween. It was really fun. And I'm doing a Christmas one on the 11th. And that's what I did basically, and cooked a lot of food.
A lot of people did that.
Yeah, I like to cook. That's kind of my hobby. So I just, if it was some complicated recipe that took all day, I was in. If I
Yeah.
got nothing else to do.
Yeah. Some people worked on their houses, some people cooked, some people watch TV. You
Well,
name it.
watched a lot of TV. I remember
And
we had and we had had a month where every night we drew pictures of animals, my wife and I.
oh, that's neat.
They were terrible, but it was fun. So we did we did that for a while. We had 80s movie month where we just watched 80s movies every
Okay.
day.
That would be an eclectic experience.
Yeah, it was, it was interesting. Like the first couple of weeks we went through all the classics we grew up with, and then it was like
Mhm.
the bad ones were the leftovers.
Oh, sure. So you're known for this song, You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. That was featured in worldwide trailers for the Universal movie The Grinch. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I had recorded that version of the Grinch. I just loved the song. And it's not even like I knew it from the cartoon, the original cartoon, and the whole song is split up throughout the half hour of the cartoon. So there's like a verse, and then stuff happens, and then there's another verse, and there's like five or six verses altogether. So I listened to it, and I would wrote down each verse, and then I just put them all together, and I played it differently. I turned it into my own thing, and I recorded it. I recorded it back in 2004. And I did it because I was playing this like multi-act Christmas show at a theater in New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted some kind of Christmas thing to sell. I didn't have any, Christmas music. So I made like a CD single, which you could still sell in 2004, of that and this one other like Christmas tune that I had written. And we recorded them both in one day. I didn't have much of a budget back then. And, anyway, we did it. I sold some of these things and eventually, it was on iTunes, and it was just there. Not much happened with it. And then 2008, which is, I don't know, 14 years later or whatever it was, I get this kind of email out of the blue from Universal Music, and they're like, or movies, and they're like, we're thinking about using your version of the Grinch for a project. Nobody would tell me what it was, so I sent it over to my manager, and he worked out the whole deal and the money and everything. And then they wanted stems. Stems are like the individual parts of the recording, like the drum part, the guitar part, the piano part, the vocal part. So we had to find the original like tracks, the master recording from 16 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I had it, because I keep my stuff pretty well cataloged. So anyway, I had it, but it was on, we use computers to record. So, and using computers to record was not all that old of a thing yet back in 2004. Like Pro Tools is the thing that people use to record.
Okay. Yep.
And so it was a very old version of that on these so the engineer's like, I don't even know if this thing is going to open up. I said, this whole thing depends on this thing opening up. So anyway, we opened it up, and we remixed it because it hadn't been mixed all that great the first time because there was no time and no budget. And sent them all this stuff. We still didn't know what it was for. They would not tell us what it was for. I had no idea. And then, and they would also not commit to whether they were going to use it or not. So time goes by, and then they offer money for it. And it was just the most money I'd ever gotten offered for anything. I was like, I don't care what they do with it, man. I'm in. And still no details. It was a big secret. They didn't want anyone leaking that the movie was out till they started advertising the movie. That's what it was about. Anyway, I get the check. I don't know when the thing is going to go to air, anything like that. And I wake up one morning, and I go and I open up Facebook, and there's all these messages. Oh my God, I heard you in the movie theater last night, and I heard you on TV. There was a video that like was up to 1 million hits in the first week. Anyway, it was a big advertising campaign for this movie,
Mm-hmm.
And so the song was just all over the place and they started advertising it a year in advance. So it was like just after New Year's, 12 months before or 11 months before that movie came out, they started running this thing. So it ran all year. And it got a lot of recognition. There are a lot of people out there who just know me as, the Grinch guy. And every December I pop up in their playlist and like, oh yeah, I love that.
You can't
That's
beat
all
that.
they know. That's all they know about me.
You can't beat that. Look at Bing Crosby. People still know who he is with White
Yeah, that's
Christmas.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could, die with nothing else to my legacy, but like they keep listening to that Grinch recording. But anyway, it was old, it was sitting around, and you just never know. And everyone's like, wow, so everyone assumed I recorded it for the movie. They were like, oh, I love that, that thing that you recorded it for the movie, right? I said, no, it's just it was already done. It was just sitting around, kind of no one was paying attention to it, and then they were.
That's terrific. Your music is so engaging. It just draws you in. Were there some favorite songs that you've composed that you liked? I'm sure you have your favorites.
I guess so, yeah. Um, it's hard to say. Good People from my new record is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And all my favorites are basically the really depressing ones.
Oh,
My Friends
okay.
and I from my new record, I think that's my favorite of any song I've ever written. And I don't know, there's a bunch of them. Mostly my live set is a combination. They're the ones I like the best, and they're also the ones other people like the best. I've lucked out in that way. Sometimes people have songs that they've written or whatever that are the fans love and they don't love, and so they're going to play them every night. But the ones everyone really likes are the ones I also like to play the most. Anything where I've been honest. I've written a lot of things that are clever. They show command of the language and, musical abilities. And those things they're impressive, but they tend not to really get to people like the ones where I just basically open up my diary and sing about all the stuff I would never actually say to anyone. That's what people love because it's their experience too,
Sure.
they want to hear, when you write a song, you can write a very intimate song about what you're going through personally, but it has to be relatable to other people, like that's the trick, right? You're being completely honest.
And the song Good People off your new album definitely exemplifies that. It's thought-provoking with a really good message.
Carriage, you can't sleep at night. Tosses and turns till the morning light. The world's ugly, the world's not fair. You can't breathe through the heat in the air. And it's so hard to see, I know. When you finally run out of hope, but there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. Oh, there's good people everywhere. When it seems like someone's always getting in your face, shooting up the place, making you lose your faith in the human race. Just remember, there's good people everywhere. Harriet, she wants to save the world. She tries hard, but she's just one girl. Now a turn needs to be saved from a world going up in flames. You're feeling lost and afraid, I know. But believe me, you're not alone. 'Cause there's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. When it seems like someone's always getting in your face, shooting up the place, moving you your human race. Just remember, there's good people everywhere. Just remember, there's good people everywhere. Everywhere.
Music is a language that evokes emotion more than the spoken word could ever do, and it's a universal language. In our previous segment, you mentioned dialects in music. Could you be the styles? I think that's a wonderful way to describe it. But music can pull out and say things words can never describe.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. And then you can sing words that are really kind of things you would never say, but that everyone really wants to hear, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Where do people find your music? Because you've got numerous albums here, and I want people to be able to listen to it and buy it.
oh, anywhere where there's streaming or downloading, or they're in stores if you are lucky enough to live near a record store. There's a pretty thriving record store scene here in LA still.
Mhm.
And Amazon, anywhere where there's music is sold or streamed or whatever, I'm there. And then of course there's bobmalone.com. If you buy your product from bobmalone.com, that's how I make the most money. There's
Right.
no middleman,
Sure.
so you can go there and hook up to all my social media there and all that sort of thing.
Excellent. There's one video of you playing on top of a building. Did you really have a piano on top of a building, or was that superimposed somehow?
No, that was real. No,
Really?
that was all happening.
Oh my!
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
it like to play on top of a building like that?
Well, it wasn't just on top of a building. It was this big industrial building in downtown LA, and had a big freight elevator, right? So the piano went up in that. So it wasn't all that difficult to get the piano up there. But so it was a rooftop, and the rooftop had rooftops are a little bit sunken usually, and there's like a little bit of a wall around it.
Right.
The guy shooting the video is like, oh man, it didn't look good anywhere in there. So I put it, so there was this kind of square part of the building kind of jutting out from the rest that had no walls around it. And it was just a flat surface, and the piano fit up there, and I fit up there, and he was going around me, but like 3 feet away was the 15-story drop off.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not going out there. He goes, you gotta go out there. It was worse for him than it was for me. So I get out there and I'm sitting at my piano stool. I'm like, I am not moving from this spot. And I was just kind of terrified. So, we're doing a song, it was a music video. So I'm lip syncing to the tune, and I'm playing the piano, and I'm trying to look like I'm really into it. But the whole time I'm like, oh, I'm gonna die for sure.
You
And
look like you were really into it, though, honestly.
Yeah, no, the video came out amazing. That was
Yeah.
the Good People video. Yeah, it came out
Yeah.
great. And but so he's circling me with this camera, and there's 2 other camera guys shooting, and it was a drone camera that was like getting all these cool aerial shots.
Yeah.
And it was my idea to go on a roof.
Okay. So you can blame
So-
yourself for that one.
So it's my own fault. But then it's like there's no way, and we shot that stuff on the roof, and then we went and we rode around on the LA subway, and we shot stuff in the subway, which is totally illegal.
Oh.
And you're supposed to have a permit for that, which costs insane amount of money,
Uh-huh.
like a big movie production will get one. But so we were just we got in a car and we're going from stop to stop, and we shot some stuff of like the background singers doing their parts and
It was great.
stuff like that. And going, and then we ended up at Union Station, which is the big train station in downtown LA. And at that point there were like subway cops, and they noticed us doing this. So because we had a person with a big light, to light up the shots, that was the biggest tell.
Yeah, that kind of would be.
So she puts away the light really fast, and we were walking around like, oh no, we didn't do nothing going on. And they
Nothing
followed.
to see here. Yep.
Nothing to see here. And then we went up the escalator. We got a great shot of the escalator, all that stuff. And then we were in Union Station, and there was a piano in there. And we were like, oh man, this is great. We're going to get some shot. And the minute I sat down and they started recording me at the piano, the security came over and shut us down.
Oh.
So we went outside, and we get some really cool shots of the background singers singing their parts outside of Union Station. So yeah, it came out good. It was really fun to make that video.
It's a great
the
song.
rooftop. Yeah, that was incredibly scary. But he was right. It was the best place to do the shot for sure.
Oh, it looks fantastic. But when I saw you there, I'm like, how can he be doing that without being terrified?
Yeah, some people are like, that's fake. You weren't up there. It's like, no, it's totally not fake. We went right up there with that piano, and we made the video.
Yeah, there's no CG there for real. It was
No,
really
we
real.
couldn't afford CGI that looks that good.
Yeah.
CGI that looks that good was way out of our budget. I mean, we had the budget for the drone camera pretty much wiped us out. So that was it.
Bob, I love the way you color outside the lines. What a great way to get a video. And what a great story. Let's listen to another song off your fantastic new album. This cut's called Oh Well.
Shape I'm in, I can't sing, I ain't pretty, and my legs are thin. But don't ask me what I think of you, I might not give you answers that you want me to. Understand, it said sit by me, I'll be your guiding hand. But don't ask me what I think of you, I might not give you answers that you want me to.
I love your creativity. I love your musicianship. You are just marvelous, Bob. Where can people find you again?
BobMalone.com.
That's pretty
My,
simple.
my my tour schedule is there, and
Okay.
everything you would ever want to know that I will allow people to know is there.
Terrific.
So yeah, that's the place.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Really appreciate it.
And
I know our listeners-
I've logged many hundreds and hundreds, thousands of miles driving back and forth across the country, and sometimes at 2 a.m. and I'm doing a long drive and it's just me and truckers, and
Mhm.
I'm like, I kind of understand what their life is.
Yes, they're the last of the cowboys. They have a very lonely
Yeah.
existence, but yet they've got the best office view all over.
Yeah, true.
It changes every day. Don't like the scenery? Just drive 1,000 miles.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it changes and doesn't change.
That's right. Thank you, Bob. You've been listening to the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm your host, Shelley Johnson. I've been talking with John Fogerty's keyboard player, Bob Malone. He's an awesome composer, musician, singer. Check out his music at bobmalone.com. Stay tuned for more great programming right here on TNCRadio.live. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network radio show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast of the Truckers Network radio show.